Okay, so I hope you're doing well and staying safe. Um, I want to give you a bit of a resource video so that you had something to review a little bit because we haven't seen some of these concepts since December-ish. So the first sort of 10 questions on this review are just asking you to solve equations. And I think those first 10 are some pretty straightforward solving questions. Just remember when you're solving, you need to use the order of operations backwards. So that's parentheses, exponents, multiplying, dividing, addition, and subtraction. So you're just looking for what operation is going to do the operations that are there. So if we could, though, and that's going to help you with 1 through 10. But if we could go down to number 11, I'd like to go over one like number 11 with you. So this is solving an absolute value. To solve an absolute value, remember, you need to create two separate problems. So in 11, it says absolute value of x plus 4 equals 9. So you're going to create two problems for that. So the first one, you're going to set what's inside the absolute value. So you're going to take x plus 4 and set it equal to positive 9. And the other problem is going to be x plus 4. And you're going to set that one equal to negative 9. And then you would solve each of these as you would solving a regular equation. So to solve the first one, you would subtract 4. Let's get you x equals 5. And then to solve the second one, you would subtract 4 again. And this gets you x is negative 13. So those are the two solutions that you would get for number 11. So in this next group of problems, 15 through 18 involves taking square roots. Let me go over a couple of these ones with you. Let's say we go over 16 and 17 together. So in 16, we have 4x squared plus 18 equals 134. Remember, when solving, we want to do the order of operations backwards. Let's just remember PEMDAS going backwards. So we want to start by undoing addition and subtraction. So here, I see an addition sign, so I got to undo that first. Let's subtract 18 first. So when you do that, you get 4x squared equals 116. Then, so that took care of your addition and subtraction. Now we have multiplication between 4 and x squared. So next we're going to want to divide by 4 to undo that multiplication. So this will get you x squared equals 29. So now we've undone the addition subtraction, then multiply, divide, now exponents. So are there exponents? So notice we have x to the power of 2. So we got to get rid of the power of 2. Remember, the inverse of taking a square of doing squares is taking a square root. So let's take the square root of both sides. And remember, anytime you take a square root, you got to put the plus or minus sign and then the square root. So this is plus or minus the square root of 29, and we cannot simplify the square root of 29. So we'll just leave it like that. So x equals plus or minus the square root of 29. Let's also go ahead and take a look at number 17. So notice in 17, I have 2, and then I have inside parentheses x minus 6 squared equals 24. So again, go to your order of operations, PEMDAS, and we're doing that backwards. So there is no addition and subtraction on the outside of the parentheses. So we do not add 6 first because the 6 is inside parentheses, and parentheses always go last. So there's nothing to add or subtract at this point. So then that moves us to the multiplying and dividing part. Now there is a 2, and that's outside the parentheses, and it's being multiplied by the parentheses. So we can divide by 2. So when you divide everything by 2, you get x minus 6 to the power of 2 equals 12. And then what you want to do is, now we undid multiplying. So now you got to go to exponents. Well, there's a power of 2, so you need to take a square root. So you get x minus 6 equals plus or minus the square root of 12. So now we've gotten rid of the parentheses when we took the square root. So now there's no parentheses. So now just to get x by itself, we're going to add 6 to both sides. So this gets you x equals 6 plus or minus the square root of 12. We need to split up 12 and we need to reduce 12. So 12 is 4 times 3, and then 4 breaks up as 2 times 2. So we can pull out a 2. So this is x equals 6 plus or minus 2 root 3. So the next two, 19 or 20, those ask you, still asking you to solve. But in order to solve those ones, you need to factor. So remember, for ones like 19 and 20, you want to find factors of C that add, to B. So we want factors of C that add up to B. So in this case, C is 6 and B is 5. So the factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So we're going to use the two of those that add up to 5 are 2 and 3. So remember, to write that in factored form, you just put an x in front of each of these. So x plus 2, this is positive 2, and x plus 3, because the 3 is positive. So I have x plus 2 times x plus 3 equals 0. And then you take each of your factors and set each of your factors equal to 0. So we'll say x plus 2 equals 0, or x plus 3 equals 0. And sorry, this is a 3 in case you can't tell. Next, you're just going to solve each of these like you would an equation. So for the first one, we're going to subtract 2. So you get x equals negative 2 is one solution. And then for the next one, we'll subtract 3. So you get x equals negative 3. It's another solution. In the next video, I'll work out one of the problems from 21 through 24 for you. So be on the lookout for that video to come shortly.